Flying is the stuff of boyhood dreams, a thrilling combination of speed, glamour and complex machinery. And for some boys, the thrill never fades.
Ever since I could crawl, I seemed to enjoy building structures and simulated environments of one kind or another. As early as 5 years old, I'd get tables and chairs together and throw a rug over it and call that my spaceship, so to speak. So I was building these forts out of cardboard, masking tape, and telephone wire as a child, and as I learned more and grew, they get increasingly more complex.
The fantasy world is now so complex that his modest basement is stacked full of avionics and instrumentation from genuine aircraft. A small network of grown men have used personal computers and madcap ingenuity to build the ultimate toy, their very own flight simulator.
Are you ready to climb, Hero?
You have a flight simulator? Yes. Where did you get it? Well, here's the story, and does it actually work? Yes, it does work, and it's great. It's mad, it's wacky.
The science caught up with the fantasy. Here I thought I wanted to build this interactive environment in 1986, and it was not possible without millions of dollars and a whole team of engineers. Now, you can go into a department store, buy the software off the shelf, go on the internet, find other people as loony as me, find out what they know, build it in, make it happen, and have the assurance that I'm not the only one out there doing it.
Flight simulator, or sim building, is a global hobby linked by the internet. This house in Stoke-on-Trent is an important hub for the network. In between tending his plants, gazing at stars, and playing train driver, Peter Dowson writes software that brings the cockpit into the bedroom.
My software's given away free. I don't charge anything for the flight simulation software I do. This is mainly because it's a hobby. I've had hobbies before which have become professions, and you then need to find other hobbies. And I'm enjoying this hobby so much that I don't want it to become another profession.
It's a hobby that gives this ordinary Southport Semi one extraordinary feature.
It's always been my workshop. I used to do all my modelling up there. That's where I used to build most of my model ships. As you can see, the door now opens onto the flight deck.
The flight deck of a Boeing 767.
And I decided I'd get a computer, have a look at them, see what I could do with them.
What Kevin has done is turn 6 PCs, a wooden shell and a video projector into an ergonomic environment with autopilot controls and navigation system, in which he is captain.
And fuel going in. Light up on that engine.
Captain Saker's virtual world is generated in a computer game and projected onto screens. But once he takes the controls, it's anything but a game.
A typical flight for me would be from, say, Gatwick up to Edinburgh or Glasgow, or possibly Manchester to Brussels, Frankfurt, Bonn, that sort of distance, and they're all round the hour.
The 767 is a wide-bodied long-haul airliner. But in Captain Saker's virtual world, he can fly a short haul after work and be back in time for dinner.
Okay, here's the runway, and we're now cleared for takeoff. Lights on. Completing the checklist. Lights on, cabin secure. Flaps 15 aeroplane.
As well as meticulously following procedures, Kevin has downloaded data from the internet, such as weight, that will make his plane behave like the real thing.
80 knots throttle hold.
His takeoff speed is pre-calculated according to that weight. As that speed is reached, rotate is called and he takes off.
Rotate.
Although his feet are firmly on the ground, Captain Saker's brain is rapidly gaining altitude. It has joined the computer to create a powerful illusion.
Just following the flight director now.
piloting the spare room in suburban Southport, Captain Saker has the world at his fingertips. But for some, the only way to fly is in a real plane. In the garage. Kevin Saker used to build model ships. But thanks to computer technology, he now has an entire replica Boeing 767 cockpit in his Southport Semi. Using software written and freely distributed over the internet by Peter Dowson, Kevin has turned a tiny upstairs room into a virtual walk-in flight deck. The entire system runs on a high-street computer game. Flight simulators provide hours of fun for aircraft enthusiasts like Kevin. But in modern aviation, they are crucial to a pilot's training, to his ongoing development, and to passenger safety. Jack Morwinny is a simulator instructor who trains professional pilots.
It's not like a lot of professions. Once you qualify, basically that's it. In the pilot community, we're back every 6 months, do recurrent training. We get our procedures checked, we get our emergency procedures checked, handling checks, and an ability to retain the technical aspects of the aircraft.
Airlines invest heavily in their simulators, which cost between 10 and 20 million pounds each. But the origin of the simulator is closer to Kevin's improvised homemade solution.
The earliest simulators really were very unrepresentative of the aircraft, had no vision, but they were very good as instrument trainers.
It was the advent of computers that offered pilots the first glimpse of a virtual world. Early machines were enormous and restricted to governments and large companies. But as computers got smaller, the virtual world expanded into people's homes. If you could play space games on a PC, you could also fly one.
Flying a PC 20 years ago wasn't the same experience at all. It's not realistic. It was a great joy because it was the first time we've done such things on computers, or at all in the home. Experience wasn't anywhere near as realistic as you might want. In fact, it was, in some ways, it's more fun to fly a lunar lander because at least there's some sense of achievement in the soft landing on the moon.
My first flight simulation software ran on something called an Amiga in 1986. And the buildings were these little wireframes, filled in shapes, and the clouds were real blocky. There was only a few colors available, but for 1986 it was pretty impressive. The instruments worked, you could do ILS approaches. I mean, it did all this stuff, and I thought, wow, this is quite amazing. Now, if I could only tap into the information in this computer and make it drive the real thing, I thought, oh, I'll never figure that out. That's never going to happen.
The problem for early PC pilots was the lack of authentic controls. The pioneers of home virtual flight had to make do with a keyboard. But the fly-by-wire system controlling most modern aircraft uses a stick. A computer interprets the pilot's stick movements before controlling the plane. It wasn't long before home simulators caught up.